Let's get to framing this beauty. Here are my supplies. I've got wax paper. This is a poster magnetic frame. I've got some Gorilla Glue, Mod Podge, and that is a paint stick, one of the long ones for like the 5-gallon bucket. Ideally what you want is a squeegee, but I couldn't find mine, so I figured any flat edge will do, and let's try it. You'll see later how successful I was or was not with this tool. So step one is to put your wax paper under the puzzle. This is to catch all of the glue that's going to potentially seep through and the glue that will spill over on the edges. Now it's time for a little Mod Podge. Make sure you give the puzzle a tap to make sure it's super flat, because some of it might have lifted when you were putting in the wax paper, and just start pouring away. I poured just some at the top section, and then I took the stick, which hopefully you have a squeegee, and you just start spreading it around, making sure you've got an even coating on all the puzzle pieces, and making sure you make it all the way to the edges. As it thins out, just keep pouring and pouring and spreading and pouring until your whole puzzle is covered. Here I started to get a little frustrated because I couldn't actually get the glue totally flat on every single puzzle piece. So then I got my hand involved and then started just spreading it with my fingers. My frustration led me to actually get up and go find a squeegee. I found a little freezer scraper, like when to scrape the ice off the freezer. So I used that. And then I had the idea of using a silicone spatula. So then I went and got one of those. I had a silicone spatula that has a very long edge, and that worked absolutely beautifully. Next, you have to clean up your edges. The glue will have spilled over onto the wax paper, and if you don't clean it up, the paper will get stuck to the puzzle, and you have to cut it off. It leaves really ugly edges. Ask me how I know. I actually swapped out the wax paper for fresh, clean wax paper because it was just getting a little too messy for me. I gave it a last pass over with the spatula to smooth out any last little bumps, and then I let it dry. I think you could let it dry just a few hours. I tend to leave it overnight just to be safe. And then the next day you flip it over and you glue the backside. Now, if you were framing it in a glass frame, you don't need to glue both sides. Because I'm using a poster frame with no glass and no backing, I glue both sides because the puzzle's really just hanging on its own. And same thing, you smooth out the glue, let it dry. I do it again overnight, and voila. I've got my magnetic poster frame here. Now, although the magnets are really strong, they are not strong enough to hold the puzzle with gravity. So for the bottom, I use the magnetic poster frame with no glue, but for the top, I put glue onto the puzzle, and I basically gorilla glue the frame to the puzzle. As you can see here, from lifting it up without glue, the puzzle just falls off of the frame. So I do the Gorilla Glue, let that sit for a little bit, and we're done. Once the Gorilla Glue is dry, you've got yourself a beautifully framed puzzle ready for hanging.